We're live. What is happening, everybody? If everybody's having a fantastic start to your week. Lord knows I woke up with a case of the Mondays yesterday. I'm going to bring you guys into my world for a little bit before I start rattling off on the monologue over here. Let everybody roll up. So, yesterday was pretty funny, man. You ever wake up and pretty much everything you touch turns to liquid shit? Well, that's pretty much what my day looked like yesterday. Woke up to TU's in. What's up, man? First in. I like it. So basically it worked out like this. Woke up to a dead battery in the work truck. That's right. Especially considering the fact I was running a little bit late. Got a chance to swap batteries in the work truck. A little impromptu thing. Mark's checking in. So is Kobe. What's up, y'all? Got the arm flex. I like it. So, roll down to my local, pick up a battery, throw it in the truck, and away I go. Only to find out that I picked up a nail along the way. That's right. So I've got a truck with dead battery, making me run late, get to my appointment, leave the appointment, put gas in the truck, find out that, oh yeah, by the way, it was running almost out of gas, figured it was going to be me pushing this thing at some point, get to my appointment. You can already tell this is already starting to look like just a complete cluster, right? Get done with that, go to put gas in the truck, find out the truck's basically about to be flat. Took that thing to the tire shop, got it fixed, so basically my day was shot. So that was my day yesterday. I've been playing catch up ever since. You ever have a day like that? I had a day like that. Yay. So anyway, again, just bringing you guys into my world. Just posted up a review, did another review for you guys. I'm starting to do some of these reviews and I'm having a little bit too much fun with them. So the first one was the water squirter. This is in my yard equipment reviews, I guess. Actually, the very first one was the Snapper Beast Machine video. So check that one out. Then after that was the squirter and now the leaf blower is in the house. So everybody, you know, don't run to that video. It's about as exciting as a leaf blower video is going to be. Actually, it's a pretty honest review. It's a pretty good one. It's a Ryobi kit that I got. So anyway, that's what's been kicking. Let's see who's checking in. Sam's checking in, saying all fun and games until you have two neutrals. Yep. Definitely no fun. Some Ferrari guys checking in. Sam's saying, yeah, it sounds like my day. Yeah. Pretty interesting day to say the least. Some Ferrari guys saying this was my first year driving manual, about 15,000 miles in, and I'm still not 100% smooth all the time. It'll get there, man. It just takes a little practice. Do I just suck or does it take longer to be 100% proficient? It just takes time, man. Anybody can drive one of these things wide open. It takes a long time to get proficient. Work on your launching, work on hill starts, things like that. Just remember, don't leave your foot on the clutch. That'll kill your throwout bearing. And don't ride the clutch. Don't let it sit on an incline with your foot barely engaging the clutch. That'll actually ruin the clutch and your flywheel along the way. So practice heel and toe downshifting and practice heel and toe starts. In the last video, in the last driving video, which was my leisurely cruise in Foxy back here, you'll hear me heel and toe downshifting. Oh, by the way, body count over under is going to stand at 3 tonight. Mosquitoes haven't been quite that bad. At any rate, you will hear me heel and toe downshifting that car. Just practice stuff. Get out there, have fun with it. That's how I learned how to do this stuff. I mean, I just went out there and did a bunch of stuff and just had a ball. So watch that video. You'll see how to how somebody who's been doing this since the earth cooled can row through the gears. That's with Foxy on street tires. You'll hear me modulating the throttle just barely in first gear, basically holding an RPM as the tires start to hook, and then you'll hear me just rip second and away she goes. You'll get to that level eventually, trust me. I'm nobody special. I've just been doing this long enough that, you know, you do something long enough, you accidentally get good at it. Sam saying, hill starts. Oh yeah, we got to See, that's where your heel and toe downshifting helps you, is for hill starts. Oh, what happened to my thing here? Peter's saying, these torque screws on these intake ports are a pain to take off my 2019 Challenger Scat Pack. Yeah, they are. Let's see. Kobe's saying, I just watched a video of 1320 stock. They say we're on 1131. Let's see. Oh, something about somebody running a 1094. Yeah, you can run in the 10s with those cars, but it's going to take super negative DA and a lot of weight reduction. But yeah, those cars, they're legit. They will run low 11s, high 10s with pretty much ease. You run a drag pack, obviously the weight reduction thing, no seat, you know, mix in a salad for a month, and I think you'll be in pretty good shape to get down in that range. I know there's some guys that have messed around with, there's some guys that have messed around with just really gutting those things, like just completely gutting them, and have gotten them down to, you know, 1080s, maybe even a little bit quicker than that. But, you know, at some point it's really not the car anymore, right? So, let's see. Shawnee's saying, getting a midweek with Mason 5-speed edition. Absolutely, yeah. If you saw the last video, you'll know that I was having a little bit of fun with Foxy. You know, one of the funny things about this, well, let me just get, talk to Sam. He just hit 393,000 on his truck. Yeah, you know, you start breaking stuff at about that point. Brent's checking in saying, what's up to everybody? Canada guy's in saying, how's it going tonight? Bride just stole a set of 275s for the old 6-1, 150 bucks for 4. Perfect for the Bernies. Dude, I like it. That's a good score, man. You got to keep those on tap. Rick's checking in saying, hey, brother. Anthony G's in saying, evening. It's evening, brother. So, anyway, yeah, if you've seen that video, you've, which is funny. I think a lot of people, people took the title to heart, like Leisurely Cruise. Why do I want to watch that? You met me? Anyway, but have a lot of fun with this car. And I tell you something, it's funny. You know, I'll take out Revlon, aka the Mistress, aka Red Alert, you know, aka Miss Nasty. I'll take out car with 1,000 names, and I have a riot driving that car. It's really fast. It does fast car stuff, you know, but it's not overly fast, and it doesn't really, I don't know. It doesn't instill an air of fun or, you know, hey, let's do something stupid kind of air the way that Foxy does. And I guess a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've been around Foxy for, I've been around Foxy for almost half of my life. So yeah, we've done a lot of dumb stuff in that amount of time. And it's kind of weird, and this is kind of the topic really, is when you've been around a car or you've been around a platform for so long that you wouldn't really be able to disassociate yourself with it. And again, for me, it would be Fox Body Mustangs, or at least a Fox Body Mustang. So whenever I drive this thing, I kind of lose the sensibilities of someone of my age should evoke once behind the wheel, right? No, I act like a complete dumbass kid when I'm driving this car, and I guess that's where most of the fun with this car comes from. You know, she's got some blemishes here and there, a wart, if you will. Doesn't matter. The thing about it is she's a lot of fun, and truth be told, if I'm grabbing keys to something to just go play with, I go play with Foxy. So anyway, in making some of those videos, the very last one that I made with the driving video of Foxy, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek throwback to, you know, when you're learning how to play. This goes back to learning how to drive a manual transmission. So this is what I wanted to touch on. This is a long way to get to a point, but just, you know me, just ride with me. You know, we're just chatting here. So the way that I'm playing with the car in that video, by the way, that's what I mean by playing with it. No, it's not necessarily me telling you to go out and do illegal stuff in your car. It's not that. But let's be real. We're car guys. These are hot rods. We're going to do hot rod shit, right? that playtime gives you the opportunity to learn the car, to learn the platform. And if you're out doing dumb stuff, it gives you an opportunity to hone and to learn a skill set that will get you out of the trouble that you will soon find yourself in once you start playing around with these cars. So I've said this time and time again, if you do get the opportunity, get out to an autocross, join your local SCCA, start learning autocross. I don't really have to get into the closed course thing, you know, the closed circuit. That gets real pricey real quick, not to mention the fact that, you know, it's really involved. With autocross, you don't have to be as involved with it to have fun. Plus, the laps are a lot quicker. It's a lot easier to master. But get out there and have some fun with your cars. Work on them. Play around with suspension settings and just get to know the car. You'd be surprised how much you pick up on just by tinkering around with it. And of course, the maintenance thing comes along with that as well. Rick's checking in saying, hey, Brother B, what's up, Rick? Already said hey to Anthony. Say, Andy Sensei, good evening, sir. What about this foam that is used in the wide body Challengers and Chargers that is basically rusting out the rockers and quarter panels? What's your take on this? What he's talking about is in the quarter panels, and really it's in the rockers, where they had sprayed a foam, and it's not just in the wide bodies, this is in pretty much all of them. Some of them, there were some voids in that foam where the foam didn't expand all the way out, and it's basically there to cover any NVH issues, things like that. And what was happening is the water was getting up in there and it was basically getting trapped. I don't know that there's an immediate fix for it. It's covered under the 3 years, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty, if memory serves me correct. Yeah, if you live in a very wet area, if you're driving the car daily, if you're seeing a lot of road salts, things like that, you go through a couple of years of that, take a look at your rockers and make sure they're not rusting. Now, to that point, I have only in my entire life seen 2 cars suffer from this. They were both Texas cars. One of them was just a slight amount of rust. The other one looked like it had been like parked at the beach. Like it was in horrible shape. So I don't really know what else to say about that. I do know about it. I've heard about it. I wouldn't really start worrying. I wouldn't go tearing the car apart just to try to fix a problem. But basically what it is the side sills just aren't fully filled with the foam, or there's voids in there that will cause a potential for rusting. That's the best I can tell you. If you're feeling really worried about it, then you can remove the side sills and, you know, check and make sure that there's no voids or no rust getting started. But again, I've only seen 2, and I've been around these things for a while. Bob Barker's giving us some sage advice. Marriage is like a hurricane. Lots of blowing in the beginning. When it's over, you lose your house. Well, for some maybe. Hopefully not for everybody. It is an interesting contract though. Shawnee's checking in. Thank you very much for the contribution, brother. Saying 6 inches of snow today, only 6 months of winter left. Oh no, man. Well, I tell you what, brother. So Sean's track has been having a problem with staying open for whatever reason. I can tell you this, Sean. We have, I'm not going to say dodged a bullet down here because we didn't. We have the Spring Nationals this coming weekend. It's fall, haven't you noticed? Anyway, the whole COVID thing pushed everything back. Last week was supposed to be pristine. Ended up raining for half of a day when the front blew through. So we had like negative something foot DAs, but 'twas raining. At least right up until about 6 o'clock. So it was a rain out anyway, but sorry to hear about that, brother. Oh, and by the way, so does all of y'all know, yes, we are still in tire limbo. Mickey Thompson and ET Street R's in our famous and favorite 305/45/17s are still on back order. There's a double back order in play right now. Mine look like they may be shipping at the end of this month. We'll see about that. More than likely, it'll probably be the end of or middle of next month. The next shipment run, basically the production run of those tires, wait for it, can you guess? December 15th. So that's the next, or the second production run. We've got one that's maybe at the end of this month, possibly into November, and then December is the next production run. So if you're waiting, that's how you're waiting. Sam's saying what I used to do in my old cars is I had my own unique way of doing hill starts. I just heel toed it, which taught me how to heel toe downshift, which you gotta practice. If you have a manual transmission, you have to practice the art of heel toe downshifting. If you don't have that down, then you just, it's like playing an instrument and not being able to play a song by memory. You have to be able to heel toe downshift. Chuck's checking in and saying, it took me a few weeks to remember how to drive stick this past summer. Stalled a few times, missed a few gears, but I finally started doing better. Then I met you on here and sweet shifting. Very nice. Hopefully I can help. That's why I'm here. Sam said, I miss driving a stick, also don't miss it at the same time. I tell you what's funny. I miss driving a stick, and then I drive this car, and then I'm cool with it. And like I've like, I don't know, scratched that itch, and then I'm back to driving an automatic. But here's what's funny. I will still ghost foot or ghost clutch to start my truck. I'll also reach for a ghost shifter to shake it and verify that it's in neutral. I'll do that. I did that the other day in Revlon too. So I don't know. I've been playing around with Foxy too much, and now I don't know, I'm surprised when I sit on the pot, I don't look for a clutch before I get that shit started. Let's see. Shawnee saying Hellcat driver's seat weight reduction project at 38 pounds, 9s or bust. Nice. Sam saying I love granny gears. Why does Nana like bananas so much? Dr. Diff saying nitrous chat. Yeah, so Dr. Diff and I were talking about nitrous and kind of lamenting some of the issues that we've had with nitrous kits over the years. And you know, it's funny, you get into nitrous oxide, and it's an interesting proposition, because when you get into nitrous oxide, most guys will get into it because they think that it's going to be cheaper. They think that it's going to be the easy way to making a ton of power. And that's true if you own a dyno. You have a mother bottle that, you know, you refill once every 3 months. You've got 2 solenoids, or at least different kits that are floating around that you're always swapping out solenoids on. Anyway, long story short, you're maintaining those systems. What happens is guys will get a nitrous system, they put it on the car, and then they seem to forget that they put a nitrous system in their car. And so, you know, he was telling me, Dr. Dipp was telling me about issues with a fuel solenoid hanging open. I've run into fuel solenoids not firing, nitrous solenoids that were fluttering, just weird stuff that happens with nitrous oxide. And so, you know, what are some tips, tricks, and things like that when you're looking to put nitrous on something? And the first and foremost is, if money is an object when you're putting a power adder on your car, look, what I'm always telling y'all, eat more freaking ramens, beanie weenies. I've given you guys recipes with chicharrones and Cholula sauce and tuna, and I mean, listen, seriously, save your money and do it right the first time, because you need a kit that has premium solenoids, because the last thing you need is for a solenoid to hang open or to not fire altogether, and when you press the button, you start firing nothing but nitrous with no fuel to go along with it, which basically turns the inside of your cylinder, your combustion chamber, into an acetylene torch. Or you fire nothing but your fuel solenoid, nitrous doesn't fire, and you basically Niagara Falls your cylinders causing your engine to hydrolock, and that's when things bend, break, fly out of the side of the cylinders and all the blocks, and basically you've just re-engineered your block within a span of about 1,000th of a second. I think you know where I'm going with this. Don't go cheap. Always follow the manufacturer's recommendations, and please, for the love of horsepower, make sure that you are updating and putting in new solenoids every year, whether the kit's been run or not. If it's mounted to your car, put new solenoids on it once a year. Get your bottle checked. Make sure that all of your equipment is working as it should, because all of those parts are important. There's no such thing as one part being more important than another part with any of these systems. So when one part fails, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a tiny little O-ring. It could be a manufacturing defect. It could be anything, but one tiny failure and it renders the entire system inert. Basically, it makes it useless. So nitrous, not quite as cheap as you would think. Albert checking in. Wu-Tang! I like it. So if you haven't seen my leaf blower video, check that out and you'll see exactly what he's doing. You'll see my political stance right there in my front yard. Saying, thank you for all that you do. Keep it up. Thank you, Albert. I appreciate that. Shawnee's checking in saying, first stick was a 1982 Mustang LX Coupe, 2.3 liter 4-speed, 80 horsepower on a good day, but it was a start. Did a lot of hell raising in a car very similar to that. Sam Grebel saying, if you got enough to roll out in Granny Low on 44 boggers, that's a fun truck for sure. Talking pulling up hills, absolutely. So yeah, Dr. Diff is saying, yeah, let's talk about the nitrous situation you ran into. So what Dr. Diff and I were talking about was, it was a manufacturing defect with the solenoid that it basically didn't make it through QC, and it looked like there was some basically metal flashing or metal shading in the solenoid itself. Basically, just got hung up. And it was a stuck fuel solenoid which hydrolocked an engine. And the problem, here's the problem that comes with that. So you go to arm the system arms, you fire the system under those parameters, and it'll get a partial fire out of that solenoid. Or if it's armed in the solenoid for whatever reason, you fire it and it hangs open after the initial fire, you let off on it. On decel, you're flooding the intake manifold full of fuel. These are the weird things that happen with nitrous oxide. When people talk about, now here's the thing, when people talk about nitrous, they talk about nitrous in a bubble. They talk about nitrous from what they've seen, but really more from what they've heard. And the conversations usually go, nah, man. And there's always a lot of hand waving and a lot of big eyeballs and a lot of very assertive tones that follow. Nitrous, man, is cheap. Shoot, you put this into that and it'll go this number and it's fat and it doesn't. No. Look, nitrous oxide is a very precise means of making more horsepower with your engine, but you have to go about it the smart way, the right way. And yes, you absolutely do have to swap out solenoids every year. If a connection goes bad, this is a kit that's installed on your car's in the garage, humidity variations, all kinds of things can, in some cases, corrode connections. It could be a wiring issue. It could be anything. You are relying on a solenoid to pop open and to pop closed, or to ramp open and to ramp closed at a specific rate. If it doesn't do exactly what you were telling it to do based on the tune that you have in your car and the fuel quality that you're running, it could blow your shit up. So that's why it's so important. The care, feeding, and maintenance of your nitrous kit is overwhelmingly important to the longevity of your car, the thing that you put it on there. And presumably you don't want to blow it up because your nitrous failed to fire or because your fuel failed to fire. Believe me, guys, this stuff happens, and it happens to happen more than you think. Anyway, Chuck's saying not everyone stores their muscle cars. I'm in Vermont and we have to undercoat and use studded snow tires. Ugh. Tell you what, I'm suffering through undercoat on Sierra right now. I've removed a lot of it, but not all of it. But it's removed. Don't worry, Justin. It's removed from everywhere it needs to be. Anyway, yeah, that undercoat sucks. Saying fall, it's 85 degrees. Yep, I like Texas winter until it gets under 50. Then I hate life. Okay, we're saying I put the Hellcat in 500 horsepower mode and raced the girlfriend's 392, and she was walking away from me. So now I'll put it back in 717 and blow the doors off of her car. So Colby, here's something funny, man. Riley, RP Productions, and I, at my very first ever track rental, raced his Hellcat in 500 horse mode versus Shalandra. And what was funny is that his car went an 1142, I think is what he ran, and I spun. And I've been running 1130 and low 1140s all that day with that car in full street trim. So, actually, you know what's funny? I like driving my car in 500 horse mode. I don't make it a point to do it every time I drive it, but I do like driving my car in 500 horse mode. Dr. saying, so you will have tires around February. No, I should have tires hopefully no later than November 15th is what I'm understanding. Sean saying, I sure hope you get your tires before January because I know you want to try to scare the hell out of a 1005. Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's the thing. I am eerily on the cusp of running a number with this car in good weather. So it's just unfortunate. My tires are shot. There's nothing left of them. So yeah, they're sitting back there, but they're just kind of stored sitting over there. I have got to put some rears on the car. I cannot even take the car out and get data right now. So, yay. Oh, Sean saying I have a small chance at racing up in Iowa. I'm still not giving up on my 9s this fall. Need under 400 DA. You just got to get out there and get it, brother. Chris Little saying, hey, B, thanks again for the advice regarding the pedal commander and tire rim setup on my RT. Absolutely, man. Hopefully I helped out. And y'all know, man, I like the pedal commanders. They don't sponsor me. I don't get anything for saying this. But, man, I got to tell you, they're pretty cool for what they are. I know Sean liked his. I had one on my E63. I've installed them on Range Rovers and BMWs and other Mercedes. I like them. So, you know, a lot of guys have weird opinions of them. My thing is, I feel like that should be a factory installed. I mean, look at all the gadgets and gizmos you have anyway. That, to me, for these electronic throttle vehicles, that should be part of a separate, by the way, controllable thing that you can do. You know, set it for eco, set it for whatever. I think we should have that option. That's why I like those pedal commanders so much. Cody saying, I still have a hard time getting a manual trans into gear. Granted, I barely drive a manual car, so I don't have much practice. I got clutchless shifting down floating gears is a skill learned. That's one that I had to learn in an old Suzuki Samurai. Got pretty good at it too, strangely enough. But you can do that when your top speed is like 55. Sean is asking, is there any benefit to compressed air intake charging? I never seen one in person, but it looks like an interesting power adder. There's a guy that did it, and it's like basically it's a one and done proposition. You have to use dried air, so you can't just use compressed air out of a tank. It has to be like double, triple filter dried. And the way that it worked was at wide open throttle, they had a metered amount of air that when they would hit a solenoid would open up a valve, and the valve would basically slam shut another valve, bypassing the throttle body, and would force feed the car compressed air. It's a complete nightmare in terms of packaging. You've got to have a tank that will hold enough cubic feet of air for whatever extended amount of time you're going to be running the car at wide open throttle. But the premise behind it is that there is literally zero parasitic loss. Some people will say turbos are zero parasitic loss. Absolutely untrue. In fact, if your turbo isn't sized correctly, you could be looking at a parasitic loss of 20-24%. That's a pretty significant amount. Whereas if the turbo is basically, if it's sized correctly, you're looking at about 10 to 12%. So anyway, getting back to it, there are ways to make that work, but it's not really something that anybody's trying to get away with, because I mean, it's just not practical. But I know what you're talking about. I've seen where a guy had tried to develop something like that and it just didn't really work. Rick saying, I love both my Challengers and both for different reasons. I was almost born with a pistol grip shifter in my hand. Like you, my life just wouldn't be content and complete without a stick car, man. I love driving them, so they're fun. I'm not one of these guys that's like, I'll never drive anything but a standard. I'm not like that at all, but when I do get the opportunity, I certainly do make the most of it. Cody's saying cheap power outers won't just send rods to the moon, it will send the whole block into the stratosphere. It can, for sure, especially when they're not tuned right. Sean saying, anybody want a good deal on a slightly used Barton shifter for a 6-speed Hemi? I'm running an 8-speed now and don't need it anymore. Yeah, hit him up if y'all need a shifter. I thought you got rid of that. Mark's asking, are you a fan of the old boxy SRT8 Grand Cherokees? Yeah. If I wanted a 6.1, I'd snatch one of those things up because I love the way that they look before they got the rounder design. Yeah, they're good looking, man. I just don't see them too much down here anymore. Sam Gribble saying, cheap power ain't cheap. No, it's not. Rick saying, hey, saw a front diff brace on a video the other day. I run the performance diff braces on both of my cars like you do. What about this front diff brace that allows zero diff movement? Your thoughts? You know, I haven't seen that one. I've seen the one that uses the other bushing. You know, man, listen, there are so many different mods out there for diff bracing. Look, performance looks good. I also like the look of the TBD machines. TBA machine rear diff brace. That one's a good one too. You know, I gotta tell you, really, the problem that you're looking at is the stock diff, the way that it's mounted. It's got two rubber bushings that are basically holding that thing in place, and it moves around a lot. So really anything you can do to keep that diff planted is going to be good. I mean, it's sitting in a solid cradle. It's not like it's sitting in like the whole rear end it should be moving. It really ought not be moving too much. It's got to have a little bit of dampening effect, but I don't know. I think they could have done a little bit better. And of course, you know, putting urethane bushings in that thing would be an expensive proposition, but probably a better play than, you know, going after all of these braces. But I mean, mine seems to be working pretty well, so I'm gonna let it go at that. Leonidas is asking, is the stock 5.7 intake manifold worth porting? Yeah, it is. Especially if that thing has experienced a lot of core shift. You got to remember that intake manifold is a 3-piece design, and so you have a lower, a middle, and a top. And if things get a little bit wonky during the manufacturing process, you'll get a bunch of ridges, and you'll get casting flash and things like that will kind of squirt into the runners. Some are better than others. I've seen some, both 6.4 truck and 5.7, I've seen some that you're just like, what in the hell happened to this intake manifold? And others that look super clean. But even the ones that are super clean have got some ridges and some ledges that can lend themselves to kind of screwing up flow just a little bit. Main thing is just to blueprint the intake. I don't really like the term porting, although you are taking out material. Really what you're doing is you are blueprinting that intake, which means that you're making the intake work the way that the engineers had originally designed that intake to work. So, you know, they didn't design the thing to have these ridges and casting flash and all this other crap. going into the runner itself. They design it to be smooth, you know, so the idea is just to kind of smooth out those transitions and make the thing work as efficiently as possible. And for some cars, you can pick up a decent amount of power. Anthony's saying, I got 6 to 8 inches of snow. Send some warm weather my way, man. You can have all the hot weather down here you want. About sick of it. What was it today, like 85 or 90 degrees? I mean, it's just, welcome to Texas, especially Southeast Texas, man. We get some crazy weather down here. And hell, we went through, what, 29 storms this year? Named storms, I don't know how many of those got into the Gulf, probably a third of that, so good times. And the G saying, putting away the Hellcat and taking out my Arctic cat. Nice. Shawnee's hanging out with Anthony. Modern Red Hemi saying, what's up, Pro Charge 5.7 ran 11.3 at 119 with bumping the limiter on the 1, 2, and 2, 3 shift. Once we tune that out, how much quicker do you think I may go? You probably got about another tenth in there, maybe a tenth. Well, if you bump 2 limiters, depends on how hard you hit them, you're probably looking at a couple of tenths. So you'd be sitting just before your 10-second mark on that one. Depends on your DA too. Further into the year you go at this point, the better your DA is going to be, so that may come up a little bit. Shoot for 10s with it. Yeah, I know for a fact you can get there with that car. One bad KZ1000. Dude, I love KZs, man. My dad had a Z1. Would have loved to have made a drag bike out of that. Said, I wish you could adjust the steering feel on these electronic assisted newer cars, kind of like a pedal commander just for steering effort. You kind of can. With some of them. I mean, I know that with the new Hellcat, the SRTs, you can adjust sport, street, and track steering modes. I used to like mine in track, and then I started running it around in sport, but you can adjust them. In fact, that was one of the things that I like the most about my SRT that it's kind of a bummer about Revlon, is that Revlon still has the hydraulic power steering, which is a heavy steering feel, which I like. And I would run Shalandra in track mode for roughly the same type of a feel, but you know, there was times when I would, you know, switch steering over to light and just, you know, change up the way that the car drove. And again, it's more of a function of just personalizing the vehicle. Demonology checking in. What's up, man? Saying B Mason in the house. What's up, my man? Cody's asking, thoughts on a 2008 Cadillac SRX with a 4.6? Nah, nothing with a North Star, man. Forget about that. I mean, no. With a side of no. That thing's no. Ed with the random letters there. Demonology saying he's got the front disc brace on his and he likes it. I like that. Anything to help hold that thing together is going to be good. Again, it just has more to do with those rubber bushings than anything else. Mark's checking out, saying, later, Mason, by the time you get to this comment, I'll have gone far to sleep. Keep that pedal on the floor, brother. I like it. Got the arm flex. My man, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Style checking in, saying, yo, B, I'm heading to the Dodge dealer to check out a Hellcat wide body, looking to lease it since the residuals are like 62%. It's not a bad residual on that lease, provided that it's got a long enough term. So I think you will be in good shape. Style saying, looking at a Go Mango wide body Hellcat. Should be a lot of fun, man. Dr. Dude saying, I like driving my truck in 900 horsepower mode. So we about the same. I like it. Leonard saying, thank you, man. Trudy's asking, have you ever driven an SRT, Jeep, Durango, or a Trackhawk? Yes, numerous times. Curious how the all-wheel drive is on these vehicles despite the weight. It is amazing. So, great. Trackhawk, 275 upper, 10% lower, tuned on E85 is scary on the street because you flat foot it and you're gone. It works eerily well. I'll just leave it at that. Rick's saying, just looking to get my 392 intake off and get it to you at some point. Maybe a good winter project. Absolutely. In that case, what I'll tell you is car's going to be down for as long as I got the intake, because I do not do exchanges on intakes. Only direct ship with your stuff. Hey, Floyd's in, man. What's up, Floyd? This is Floyd with the white SS 454. Joined the Hellcat family this past Saturday. Hey, there you go. Bought a new 2020 Go Mago Challenger Hellcat. Man, what an awesome car. Love it. Need to get with you. Hit me up, brother. You got my phone number. Let's chat. You're going to love that car, too, by the way. You didn't get rid of one of my trucks to get that, though, did you? Skeptical fry. Better not have. Dr. is saying 5.7 intake is very much worth porting. Ask my man B. Mason. He's going to grab 2 intakes for me tomorrow. That is correct. I will be grabbing 2 and looking forward to getting those parts. I think, what am I picking up? A truck and a 6.4, I think. That's what I'm grabbing tomorrow. I will need to know, because I need to figure out which rolls that I need to get, because the runners are smaller in the 5.7s. For the cars, not for the trucks. The trucks are about the same size. Kobe's saying, yeah, Oklahoma has bipolar weather too. Yeah, it does. Used to have family that lived in Oklahoma, and I used to love going to Oklahoma so much, man. I've always had a lot of fun in Oklahoma. Everybody always is so nice to me up there. Dr. Div saying, demonology needs one of our cams. Might make that thing go fast. Yeah, we got a few fast cars coming out of Doc Differential right now. We need to get some video of that white car, my man. One of my kids came to life recently. As y'all know, I take my camshafts extremely personally and fret right over these things, literally right up until the time they start making fire. And the high roller, aka J2, aka Joker the sequel, for the bigger engines, that thing is nasty. Ow. Put a lot of math into that cam too. That cam is as much it's as much as I would ever want to see in a 392 that would be driven on the street. In fact, to go more than that cam, mathematically, I don't think it would pick up any power. In fact, I think the KPA on that thing's probably going to be around 1/4 of an inch at about 6,800 RPM. And not KPA, inches of mercury. So that's going to be a pretty nasty little setup. Dr. Diff, no, his car is still rear-wheel drive. Kevin Collins taking and saying, what up, Mason, the Mopar Guru, doing your good service. Got the arm flex, I like it. Let's see, Dr. Diff saying, I got the 6.4 intake you will have tomorrow. You're more than welcome to do an exchange on it. Use it to your benefit, also mine. Yeah, I do not do, I don't like doing any exchanges just because of issues that I've had with some of the 2015 cars getting pissed off about the throw on the short runner valve, although that can be tuned out. You can just tell it not to worry about it. Just kill it in DTCs. Let's see. Rick's saying she's a garage queen anyhow. She's still under 3,000 miles, 2729 to be exact, so no problem there. Very nice. Monterey Hemi saying, how much are you charging for porting 6.4 intakes? Need to get mine done. Right now I'm only porting for businesses. Come March, I'll open it up, and typically those will be going for 4.25. Let's see. Dr. Div saying, yep, 6.4 car and 5.7 truck. Both runner intakes. By the way, that does not include the ride. So your better bet is to get with somebody that I port intakes for. Call Dr. Differential, he'll get you hooked up. Oh, Kobe's saying, oh yeah, I noticed that my 2020 Hellcat will short shift the 3/4 shift. Thoughts? Could be a couple of different things. One is make sure you're running it in sport mode. Don't run it in track mode. Track mode will have a tendency to short shift on these cars. Also, when you're running the car, sometimes predictive shift, especially if you haven't driven the car in a while, it'll take it one run through the gears to get kind of sorted out. So it's more of an issue that has to do with predictive shift algorithm than anything else. Dr. Div saying nasty ran with the ZR1. So yeah, we've got a NA 392 with one of our intakes, high roller cam, and a host of other bolt-on modifications. Was able to basically piss off a ZR1 on a highway pass. So yeah, I'd say she's making good power. And that's NA, no nitrous, all cam and intake porting. Dr. Div saying, and sounds delicious. Yeah, it's probably one of the best sounding cams I've ever heard. Good job, B-Mace. Rumblebee saying, isn't the 5.7 intake plastic? Yes, it is, polymer, as is the 6.4. Trudy's asking, what are your thoughts on Ford keeping the Shelby GT500 really exclusive per usual? I haven't seen one on the road yet. Ford should maybe have taken notes from Dodge on the Hellcats look. Let me just say this. I don't, who am I to judge what Ford does with a GT500? But I will say this, maybe it's best that they did keep it somewhat exclusive. I mean, let's be real. When I saw the one that was on the dyno and was able to take a look at the tune and look at all of the nannies that are in that tune, and just discussing it with Alex over at Pike's Performance, we're just kind of going through it, and he was like nanny after nanny after nanny, and they don't even have visual on the transmission tune yet. These were all nannies on the ECU side. That computer is doing everything under the sun that it can do to save that transmission. So if that gives you any idea of what's being left on the table with that car, just in the tuning process, I think that car picked up something like 35 horsepower and like 40 foot-pounds of torque between 3,000 RPM and 4,500 RPM, like right through the sweep through 3,500, just by changing one little parameter in that tune. So, and that had to do with some torque limiting, in essence, what would boil down to a torque limiting table. So, yeah, there's a lot being left on the table with that car, and it's transmission limited. They screwed up. I mean, when you look at an ECU and they're saying, well, hold on, easy there. Now we gotta slow your, okay, now we'll feed it back into you. Let me give you an idea. Torque curve goes, instead of being like the normal torque curve where you see it and then it just falls off, and then horsepower, will kind of come up and then kind of tabletop. This torque curve basically went up, flat, and then up again. It's pretty funny. It's a big chunk of nothing right there. Demonology saying, Dr. Div, bring your fast cars to the Scary Fast YouTubers Halloween Bash in Memphis. We may saying, always good to see you, brother. Got the arm flex and the fist bump. I like it. Saying, thank you for the chat as always. I want to know if you think a catch can is necessary for the 2020 wide body Hellcat. Well, listen, I got to tell you something. I'm not running one on my car. I can tell you that if you do want to run a catch can, you need to run a dual catch can. Don't just run one on the throttle body side, so to speak. You need to run one on the intake side as well. If you don't, you're kind of missing the boat on both sides, but you need to run both. If you're going to run any, just run both, and you'll be a lot better off. Now, how much will you catch? Here's the thing. So Chris, the owner of Orange Crush, that orange car that is in the video, it's one of the Hellcats that I tuned. We've tried to extract oil with this thing, and we're just not getting a lot. So we're talking maybe a quarter of an inch at the most in this Billet Technologies catch can, maybe a quarter of an inch in that thing, enough to fill up basically one of these. That's about it. Maybe a little bit more than that. How about this? Will this do it for you? One of those. Gatorade bottle cap. Maybe that much over the course of 3,000 miles or so. And the problem is, let me tell you what the problem is here. The issue here is that if you take that amount of oil and divide that into the amount of gasoline that you would have burned over 3,000 miles, well, think about it. It wouldn't even offer up a favor. It wouldn't even be a respectable excuse for it to contaminate. So, do you need one? I'm not running any on my car. It's got about 15,000 miles on it and no ill effects. So, I would say you don't need it, but it's not going to hurt anything. And if it adds some peace of mind, then, just as well. By the way, you might say, oh, well, the oil will reduce the octane in the gasoline. And first of all, I'll say reference what I just said about, the amount of oil versus the amount of gasoline and the contamination thereof. But I also data log Chris's car, and there's the same, based on fuel quality, there's the same amount of knock retard in the exact same places that you would find in my car, because it's the exact same tune. So, by the way, his car makes more power than mine. How the hell is that? I need to talk to my tuner. Anyway, getting back to it, there's no difference. There's just no difference there. So, should you? Debatable, but it's good peace of mind nonetheless. So, I will leave it at that. But, I'm not. My car went 10-16 without him. Hoping to get 10 O's out of it this fall, or winter, I should say. Chuck Rice saying, I'm hoping that Dodge will make the red eye and a 6-speed by the time I get one. If not, wide body it is. I'm not really into paddle shifters, though I know they are quicker. Look, man, if you want a manual guys are always going to roll in manuals. That's just the way it is. I like having one to hang out with. If I want to drive one, I've got one to go with. But yeah, if I'm looking to run a number, it's going to have to be the automatic, especially nowadays. So much faster, so much more consistent, and so much more efficient than what they used to be. I mean, they're on par with manual transmissions, in some cases a little bit better. Trudy's asking, have you gotten to drive a C7 ZR1? No, but I've driven modified Z06s, and I love them. Rick saying, ship the intakes to Pikes or just contact you when you're ready to ship? Just contact me, and we will work it out from there, my friend. Monterey Hit Me saying, thank you for doing what you do. See you next live chat. Monterey Hit Me, thank you very much for the arm flex. I like it. Thank you very much, brother. Boosted Motorsports saying, B Mason on a roll with these lives. About to Hellcat swap the Dakota on our channel. That's going to be awesome, man. Can't wait to see that. That's going to be awesome. Shawnee's saying, you missed my question at 10:15 about the Hellcat stock axles. What was the question? If I missed the question, don't just tell me that I missed the question. Give me the question when you tell me that I missed the question, because it probably means I didn't get it. And these things don't timestamp. Let's see. Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, that makes it nice. I've learned something. Oh, here it is right here. Shawnee, what are the stock axle 60-foot limits for an automatic Hellcat? I'm running 148 60-foot times, but I think the car has a 146. If I put my big boy pants, weak points, have a diff brace on. Okay, so when it comes to when it comes to the axles, I don't know that there's necessarily a 60-foot limit. I will tell you that it depends on the abuse that those axles have taken along the way. So if they've seen a lot of wheel hop, if they've seen a ton of, say, 145 60 foots, is one worse than the other? Well, wheel hop is going to sting them worse than a steady state load will. You know, for the guys that are launching off of a trans brake, that's hell on axles. But the general consensus is the stock axles will take you really far. You know, if you've got an upper and a lower pulley car, you're going to need to get a set of axles on it relatively quickly. You don't have to, you know, necessarily do it right now. You know, the car will still run around and drive and do everything fine with the stock axles, but if you start taking it to the drag strip and you're pushing, say, somewhere north of 750, 775 horsepower to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, put a set of axles in the car. It's going to cost you a couple of grand. I know nobody likes to do it. It's not sexy, but you'll thank me for it when you're not snapping axles and loading the thing on the back of a truck, because believe me, it's a lot more expensive to do that plus put on axles than it is to just go ahead and put the axles on now. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Hang on. Let's see. Dr. Div saying, Matt, I wish I could bring my crew cab. I'm waiting to get the engine back in the engine bay. Thanks for the invite, though. Might be more of a run than you might think. You will get me, but fun. Let's see. Trudy saying, how would you compare the stock nannies on a Hellcat Red Eye versus the GT500? You can't. You can't. At least the Red Eye will give you full power through the rev range. The GT500 won't. Where you get stung on the Red Eye is thermal nannies on the big end of the track, but normally that's not too big of a deal. The GT500 is just nanny all the way across. It's funny, I'm not kidding. That torque curve will literally go flat line and then goes back up and then down. Or the horsepower curve, I should say, will go up, flat, up, and then dip down. It's kind of funny. But no, you really can't compare the two. And what's really screwed up, this is how you know that the manufacturer figured out, like, uh-oh, this is how you know that they had that moment. Because the nanny is at a spot where, like, modification wise, the nanny is in a spot where the engine under, like, because that GT500 wasn't stock, it had a pulley and exhaust on it, but even with the car stock, it would still hit those limiters, especially in low DA days. So it's a load limiter, and it's basically an if-then table. If load hits X, it's gonna pull X amount of timing, and it just flat out will not allow any more. You know, it'll flatline timing, so to speak. HP90 just sitting there. How many manufacturers use HP90s? Like shitloads. BMW, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, FCA. Pretty much everybody that builds a fast car with an automatic with a big engine uses the HP90 transmission. Let's see. Bobby's asking, where do I get one of your cams for a 5.7 Challenger B? Mason, do you put together kits, push rod springs, etc.? Dr. Diff does. That's who you need to contact. Absolutely. Chris Egger saying, I got the Pulsar on my 16 Ram. Would a tune be better or keep the Pulsar? I don't really like Pulsars that much, man. Dr. saying, Chris Hager, you need to get with me. That Pulsar is a joke. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Pulsar stuff. Arthur Wall saying, hey, yo, what up, B-Basic? Got the arm flex and the bald guy with the shades. I like it. Brennan saying, get his front runners tomorrow for his Hellcat. What tire pressure should I run for the fronts? Also, will I need to do anything for clearance? They're 4-star 18x5s. Depending on what tire you run, if you're running the Mickey Thompson radial, you're going to want to run, and that's the 28x6 radial. Never can remember. Anyway, if it's a 28.6 radial that they develop basically for the Hellcats, yeah, you're going to want to run those at about 80 to 85 psi is what they're going to like. If it's a bias ply front runner, you're going to probably be around 45-ish psi. Oh, Shawnee's got it there. Yep, 85 psi. Oh, Chris is looking to get a hold of Dr. Diff. There you go. (409-553-0759). Chuck Rice saying, is a catch cam necessary for my Challenger RT Plus shaker? Again, kind of debatable on that. I ran one on my car and I never really got a lot of oil out of it. I've seen more oil run through the 5.7s than I have the 6.4s. I've got a video, by the way, if you want to look it up, it's on the how-to section in my playlists. And it's an older video with my old work truck, and I had basically had done a test showing how much oil came out of the catch can. I think it's at like, I forget how many miles it was, but I also show on there kind of a modification that I came up with to kind of chill out some of the oil that I was catching with my catch can. It's kind of a retrofit to a GM style PCV valve. So anyway, check that out. It'll help you out a little bit. Floyd's asking, what do you think about the performance development diff brakes? They're good. I mean, they're really good. They've got so many flavors out right now that I can't really keep up with all of them. But whatever their latest kit is, believe me, it's going to be good. I've got the old one-piece race kit that I like it, but you need a thin wall socket to put it on. But they're all good. A top tip, installation tip for you, by the way. Excuse me. Don't run the. You're going to need to basically, because you've got a later car. I doubt very seriously that your cradle is going to be threaded like some of the earlier cars. But when you do run and you'll know what I'm talking about, the cradle bolts into the cradle, don't put a whole lot of rest on it. Basically, you're just going to kind of seat them, just basically seat them with enough pressure to hold everything kind of in place, just barely enough to really hold it there. That's going to really be all you need. A lot of guys get in there and crank the hell out of it. What happens is that'll jack the pinion angle up. Literally and figuratively, it'll kind of pull it forward a little bit and preloads it. It's not really what you're looking to do. You're looking to mitigate movement. So a little bit of blue Loctite, you'll be in good shape. Let's see. Oh, Brennan's asking, I'm also running with stock drive shaft with stock power. Should I be safe? Yeah, you'll be fine. Just watch the wheel hop, man. You get into a weird situation, get out of it immediately. Last thing you want to do is find yourself in a funky situation. You get wheel hop, you stay in it, you get mad because you've been stuck in staging lanes for forever, and you drink too much lemonade, so you still got to take a leak, and you got to take the same leak that you had to take a leak an hour ago, and the hot dog's really not sitting right, and the chili fries are really not sitting right, and you're doing everything you can to just try to make a pass so that, the faster you make the pass, the faster you can get to the bathroom, and hopefully they have toilet paper, and hopefully that toilet paper isn't wet. And these are the things that are going through your head, and it's going to make you make a bad decision if you get in the wheel hop to just leave it matted. Don't. You get in the wheel hop, lift, get out of it, because trust me, it's not worth it. Tree saying, if you were to buy a brand new Hellcat as a daily driver street car, is it worth swapping the 262 rear end for the 309? Not if it were a daily. If I had a Charger and I was going to daily that thing, basically a true family car, I probably wouldn't. I would leave it as a 262 and just, put a tune on it and call it good, because they actually get really good fuel economy with the 262. I mean, I was knocking down 24, easily 24 if I would just cruise at like 70-ish on the freeway. In mixed traffic, I'd get 25. You kind of get a little bit of a draft from the car in front of you. So, yeah, they're actually not that bad. So, and they're still fast. They're plenty fast. I mean, that's a low 11-second, high 10-second car all day, every day on a tire. So, yeah, I mean, what's not to love about that situation? I'd probably just leave it alone for about 6 months, and then put a 309 gear in it, and then diff brace, and I put a set of replica wheels on it, and then I'd probably put TBA pulleys on it, and then probably start considering a pulley swap at that point. How much was that injected engineering? Anyway, Sean, checking out. Sean, have a good one, brother. Let's see. Rick's checking in saying, "Night, Sean." Boost is saying, "Do you know what modules are needed from a donor charger Hellcat to get the swap to run in a Dakota? Doing my research now, they wrecked the car. The wrecked car is missing the key, but has everything else. You're going to need a key. Don't even try to get around this one. You should be able to get a key made for that car. Made for what's left of that car, I should say. With the VIN and the ECU. Dr. Diff, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe you can still get a key for that car with all the VIN information. But you just have to be able to show that the car is registered to you. But yeah, I think you can still do that. As far as what all modules, God, there's a lot of stuff you're going to be deleting in that thing. You're going to be deleting, I'll put you like this. If you're doing a full powertrain swap, things you're going to need to do, you're going to need to have all the exciter rings in place. I know that's what some of the ones that we have done before, or at least had tuned before the swap, that was something that they were having a hard time getting to work right, though. Anyway, the exciter rings are for the speed sensors. There's a lot that's involved with a Hellcat swap. It's not just a swap into the thing. I know that when what was it? Something Texas 4x4. God dang, I apologize. Cannot remember the name of the company that were sending all of the 392 and Hellcat swap Jeeps over. I know a lot of those ran on 6.4 computers somehow. If I sat down and started going through it, I could probably hack it in and make it work, but you're still going to need, see, all your transmission shifting is done with output shaft RPM. You would have to kill pretty much everything in the body control module, I would think. Anyway, there's a lot, but I don't know everything, unfortunately. I haven't been involved in too many of those. But the easiest way is to get started is to make sure you can start it with that key. Trudy's asking, how many miles do you have on Foxy? The chassis has about 120,000 miles. The engine itself has about 15,000 miles, and the transmission on this rebuild has about 15,000 miles. Chuck saying, thanks B. Thank you. Rick saying, thanks, Dr. Diff. Doctor says, the dip brace is where it's are. That's where it's at. Oh, and then here you go. Yeah, Boost Motorsports. Give Dr. Diff a shout. He'll steer you in the right direction. And Boost is saying he's going to buy the whole thing, which is the only way to do it. Oh, and Dr. Niv saying it is AEV and they used a 6.4 PCM. Yeah, that was, that Hellcat swap Jeep was a riot. That thing was a lot of fun. Tree's asking, if you were looking to upgrade from a 15 SRT to a newer Hellcat, does putting the Hellcat in 500 horse mode kind of simulate SRT scat if you wanted to, or is it totally different? It's different in a good way. So let me tell you what 500 horse mode does when you get into a Hellcat. It's probably one of the more fun modes because it acts a lot like a 426 stroker. It drives, for lack of a better way of putting it, practically identical to a 426 stroker because it limits the engine to about 5 pounds of boost. The engine itself, if you're to think of this engine as a naturally aspirated engine, is really only good for about 400, maybe 425 horsepower at best. It's a low compression engine. It's got a supercharger on it, so that kind of makes up for runner length and all this other stuff. That's why I said 4 1/4. It's hard to really give you a number because, again, it's got a blower on top of it. But you know, figure naturally aspirated, call it 4 1/4 just because that's an easy number to come up with. And then when you have 5 pounds of boost, you figure that's going to kick you up to about 550-ish horsepower realistically, or at least an experience of about 550 horsepower just because of that big hit of torque down low. It's a lot of fun in 500 horsepower mode. It'll dead hook in 500 horsepower mode, and it's surprisingly similar to a couple of the 426 cars that I had driven that were basically just really more street setups. These are high mileage scat packs that guys wanted basically to just do a rebuild. Kind of a mild cam, factory intake, the whole bit. Real torquey, didn't want to rev much past about 6,000 RPM. Sound familiar? So that's what 500 horse mode is. It's good enough to propel the car to mid to low 11s really on a tire. And, you know, again, it's real similar. But just driving the thing around the initial torque hit and all that's going to feel a lot like a kind of a mild 426. Let's see. Oh, Rick's hanging out with Dr. Diff right now. So, and so getting back to, you know, what I was talking about earlier with some of the videos I've been making lately. Yeah, there's some Easter egg-ish type things in there, you know, me just kind of having a little bit of a laugh. The last one with Foxy, obviously, that's just kind of a throw out there for you guys, just so you can, you know, kind of ride along with me while I'm reliving the 90s with Foxy. And another thing is just kind of give you a quick demonstration of going through the gears with something like this, you know, lightweight car, 351 AFR heads, you know, an old kind of a cam grind with this F-cam and 1.7s, you know, fast for 90s kind of fast, you know, roughly 300 horsepower to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, somewhere around 320 on a dyno jet. You know, it's fun to just kind of take you down that path. You know, this is the path that I was on. This is the car that I learned all this stuff with, and you know, rowing through the gears, you know, making the car hook, feeling the way that the car is trying to hook, driving the car through first, into second, into third on these street tires. You know, it's so much fun. But here's the thing. The other cool thing about Foxy, and this is part of what I was kind of alluding to in that video that I did, is, look, if this is the best car in the world to learn in terms of training you to feel the car, to, you know, instill a little bit of fear into you. It's not exactly stable at high speeds, okay? Again, the other night, you know, I got into a little bit of a tussle. Oh, this is what I forgot to tell you guys, so check this out. The other night when I got into that little skirmish with the Scat Pack wide body that I walked away from, so the car felt a little loose, and I'm going, what in the hell, you know, and it didn't really matter. I went ahead and just exited. I was going back to the house anyway. And I was thinking, man, the car kind of felt a little bit loose. So I get home, and I thought, man, is one of the tires low? Come to find out, my right rear tire was at about 21 PSI. These are street tires, really not supposed to be any less than 30, 35 realistically. Yeah, it was at 21. Everything else, so yeah, I was basically running around with a jacked up tire out playing around with people on the street going really fast. So I'm a dumbass. So yeah, do as I say, not as I do. But anyway, getting back to it, this is the best car in the world to learn with. Easy to work on. I mean, when you're spending money, it's expensive, but when you have to, but easy to modify, easy on the pocketbook, easy on your hands to modify. Not a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, although you'll bleed all over it because there's a lot of sharp edges. But the point of it is when I take this car out, I can't tell you the fun that I have with it, and it just wants more. I mean, but being able to experience this with my wife and being able to experience this, you know, with friends, that's the most fun part of this car, because this car is a part of our childhood. You know, this is part of how we grew up. This is the dumb stuff that we were doing. You know, learning how to do it, you know, basically a 270 whip, learning how to do just drifting the thing or tail sliding the thing out of U-turns, or, you know, drifting the thing through the wide U-turns. This is what we learned how to do that stuff with. These and SN95 Mustangs and F-body Camaros. All the street racing and drag racing that we would do, and all just the dumb stuff, you know, the stupid, dumb memories were all started in these types of cars. So, you know, it's, you know, every time I drive it and I do these dumb things and pull off these dumb maneuvers, do some stunt driver Brian stuff, you know, it brings me back a little bit. So it's a shitload of fun. Now, it's not to say that, you know, I would, you know, sell my Hellcat in lieu of the Mustang. That's not, I'm not saying that at all. Because you do evolve, and your taste evolves, and your acceptance for certain things evolve. But what I'm saying is when you have that thought, or when you have that memory that's fun, and you go, man, if I could only, oh, wait a minute, I know where the keys are to that thing. You know, and you can go relive that memory that you had when, you know, you were young and equally as stupid. Let's see. Oh, hang on a second. What did I do here? Rick's hanging out with Doc Diff. Brandon's saying, I have my HP tuner from my Scat Pack, which Alex tuned. If I want to tune my Hellcat with that, what do I need to do? Buy more credits? Yes, you will have to buy more credits. And an unlocked PCM? Yes, you will. What's the unlocked Hellcat PCM cost? The same as it would for anything else. So if you're just getting the PCM unlocked, it's $250 plus the ride. If you are buying the ECU, I think they're $650 or $750. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, because all I did was send them off to get unlocked. So that should get you in the ballpark, hopefully. Rick's hanging out with Dr. Diff still. Let's see. Let's see. Ulysses is asking, what's a good price for a 2019 Dodge Challenger RT with 20,000 miles? Depends on what all the car has. But if it's, you know, basically like every other RT that's floating around out there, 2019, it probably stickered for 35-ish, maybe. I would say somewhere in the 27s, maybe 25s. if that's where it started off life. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Div saying our latest high roller, aka Joker 2, runs with a ZR1 vet on the bumper. It's not as bad as you might think. Also, it's not cheap, but not bad. Hit us up. We can ship vehicles as well. Yeah, that Cam, my latest kid, so proud, so proud. So yeah, you'll be happy with that. Rick's saying, Dr. Diff, I certainly will. I am in Southeast Tennessee. Both of my cars are basically about done at the moment. Phase 2 on my Hellcat will be kind of the red eye makeover like B. Mason did to Revlon. That's a fun one too. You know, that, it's kind of funny, you know, how good the Hellcats do run. Gear, tune, rinse and repeat. I mean, that's really all you need to make one of these things run right. And a tire setup for sure. GS1 saying, I think once the warranty is up on my Scat Pack, a cam is sounding like the thing to do. Absolutely. Oh, Doc Div saying $699 or $799 on the PCMs. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere in that range. I just couldn't remember exactly what it was. Chuck saying 30 grand if it's loaded depending on the trim. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking like, you know, I was saying 27, 29, so I was right there in the ballpark. Floyd's asking, I was saying, I am out, got to get up at 4:30 a.m. Text me at the number that I have so I can have your contact again. You got it, brother, will do. So yeah, but it's funny too, because when it comes to the Hellcats, things are a little bit different when it comes to Hellcats. I will have to admit that unless you're pulling the piss out of it, you're kind of limited to what you can get away with. But, you know, it's one of those things. I mean, if you're of the mentality, you know, go big or go home, you can definitely throw a lot of money underneath the hood of a Hellcat. Anywhere from fuel systems, cam, porting the blower. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. But just like with anything else, you know, you got to look at it, you know, you got to look at it for what it is, you know, and you've got to set plans. You got to put a plan together and set goals. Got that one backwards. You know, if you want a car that runs 950s, you need to build a car that runs 950s from the back bumper to the front bumper and then up from there. In other words, rear diff brace, drive shaft, you're going to need to have rear axles. You need to make sure that basically everything on that car is going to be able to manage the kind of power that you're looking to make with it. So, you know, you can go 275 upper, 10% lower, injected engineering fuel system, and that's going to get you somewhere north of about 800 horsepower to the rear wheels with a cat delete. Yeah, that's a ton of power. If you want to get real nasty, you can throw a cam in it, but you're going to have to pulley down from there, go with a 265 upper, and, you know, pick up a sizable chunk of power there as well. I mean, there's ways to make a lot of power with a Hellcat. The problem is how fast do you want to go? Because, you know, look, it's just money. All you're doing is just throwing money at it. So, you know, the main thing is you've got to set a goal, and you've got to stick to that goal. And I get it. The internet will tell you that your car is slow. Doesn't matter. They can run 8s, and they're going to tell you it's slow. But the reality is that there's a fun zone for every car. And I've always said this about the Fox bodies, or really any car for that matter, that mid-12s, high 11s range, you know, really that 12.7 to 11.7, that's really your super fun zone. Now you start getting into these Hellcats, things change a little bit because they're heavier, and you're not going to be flicking them around as much like you're going to be flicking around one of these, you know, twitchy little Fox bodies. Things like driving this thing, if you've ever flown Hilo, it's an R22. I mean, it's not even an R44. It's an R22, just twitchy, always wants to do something. It's, you know, like a chihuahua on freaking crack. So anyway, But the thing is that if you don't have a plan, then you don't have a direction. You can't manage where that project is going. And that's probably the most important thing when it comes to building any of these cars, but especially the Hellcats, because you got to figure that with the Hellcats, they're already really good. And so to get more power out of them, although it's easy because you just cram more air into it, you start running up against fuel quality concerns. And this is where things get weird. So you run into a fuel quality issue somewhere around stock. And that's why when guys are always at, I get so many questions about the Rip-A-Tuned, the Incognitus, that Incognito pulley, or there for a while it was the Hellraiser. You know, what about them? You know, can you put them on with a tune? Can you put them on without a tune? Like, no. Because down here, I mean, that's tantamount to, you know, mechanical suicide at that point. There's no way that any respectable mechanic would put a pulley on a car knowing that you're not going to put a tune on it down here. Now, if you're at a higher elevation, you can kind of make a case for it, but not down here. And of course, I know Dr. Diff had played around with one, I think it was a Hellraiser pulley, wasn't it? And it didn't go really well because it was pulling so much timing everywhere. So, you know, it's one of these things. I guess where I'm going with this, that what I'm illustrating here is that there is no free lunch, right? This is kind of that, I don't know, that cliche embodied, okay? There's no free lunch. You're not going to get a whole lot more power on the cheap with one of these cars. To do it and to do it right, you're going to have to paper up. So, you know, if you want that cam, you got to pulley it up because you're going to lose boost with a camshaft on a Hellcat. You're making the thing more efficient. You might make roughly the same power, but it'll be at a lower amount of boost. You might say, well, that's safer. We ain't looking for safe, we're looking for fast, okay? If you wanted safe, you'd be pulling a Corolla up into the shop. So, you know, to do it right, you need to maintain that level of boost, but you need to, you know, give it the ability to be more efficient, especially through the mid-range and the upper RPM range. But from there, where do you go? I mean, again, we're already looking at issues with fuel quality. That's why so many guys decide to go 10% lower, 275 upper, injected engineering fuel system, E85, larger injectors, and then of course all the supporting cast of axles and a drive shaft and a rear diff brace and a cat delete. All of that together, again, is kind of the garden variety 960 Hellcat combination. I mean, it's going to go mid-nines, just like every one of the rest of them go mid-nines. It's going to light the tires up for seemingly no reason on the freeway. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a blast. And then you're going to freak out because you're going to floor it going down the freeway, and it's going to break traction, and you're going to freak out. You're going to get rid of it, and somebody's going to get a really fast car, and you're going to be all sad-faced. That's typically what happens if you don't know what you're getting into. And that's a scenario, by the way, that happens to happen a lot. So, you know, sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. And I can say it like this. I can be kind of about it because, look, when you've been around this stuff long enough, you've driven everybody's hot rod and everybody's car is fast, and, you know, you get the keys to everybody's freaking mistress because you're the one taking it down the drag strip for them. You know, it went mid-nines. The way that the last 17 or 18 of them went mid-nines. Or, it went low 10s. Or, it went low 11s. Or whatever the number is. It doesn't matter to me. You know, it's just... And by the way, not for nothing, but it really doesn't matter what the car runs. I know that I've had guys ask me to take their car down the drag strip. Cars that run high 11s. I've run 12-second cars for guys. I've run mid to low 9-second cars for guys. These are recently. I've driven faster cars than that, but just in recent memory. To me, it doesn't matter what the thing runs. It could be a truck. It could be a car. It could be anything. all the Mopars run, sound, feel basically the same going down the track. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but on a certain level, it's very true. When they're done right, and what I mean by that is when they're done right, they feel planted, they feel stable, and they feel safe. When they're not done right, they feel sketchy, they feel loose, and at any particular sign, I mean, I've driven through some pretty hairy things with some of these cars, but I've come back and said, look, the car's not going to go back down the drag strip tonight. You need to fix this, that, and this, or it's not going to be safe. And that has only happened a couple of times. For the most part, they're all pretty easy. And what's funny is and this is a question that I've been asked a lot, what's the difference between driving a scat pack on a drag pack down the drag strip and driving a car like Revlon? An arguably fast car, not something that, for a street car. It's a 10-second, mid to low 10-second car, for crying out loud. I would say that would classify as somewhat fast. My takeaway is it's not much different. They sound very similar. They feel very similar coming out of the hole. And this is where, when I talk about entertainment dollars, where they start to feel different is about after the 1-2 shift. The Hellcat will just keep driving and driving and driving, and the 392 will start to kind of get in its groove and start putting in work, especially at about half track. Whereas the Hellcat is just, really motoring on. It's on a mission at that point. So, yeah, you can really feel the difference at that point, but to me, it's really 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. They're all a lot of fun. And so you're talking about, what is the value proposition of the Hellcat? Because that's another kind of overlying topic that'll come up. And I got to tell you guys, it's very strong from a durability standpoint. The viability of the prospect of that car basically being in its exact same state 5 years from now is very high. Whereas with a 392, that might not necessarily be the case, depending on the state of tune and what all you've done to it in that amount of time, because you're going to start to want to do more stuff with that 392, like cams, exhaust, and everything else that goes along with it. But there is a $20,000 difference between the two cars. I mean, that's a pretty wide delta when you start to take a look at it, especially, again, from the entertainment value point of view. Is that little bit more push in the seat and that time slip that, by the way, you may not be taking the car to the track enough to really justify the cost of 20 grand. Is it worth that $20,000? Is the extra durability worth that 20 grand? And with the understanding that you can't use all of that power on the street. You just can't. The tires light up, which is neat, makes for fun stories, I guess, here and there. But when it's just you in the car, and you roll into the throttle and it just lights the tires up, sometimes that's fun. But other times you want to try to go for that 0 to 60 number. You want to go for that 330-foot number, or whatever you're going for on your data thing. The newer cars have quarter-mile time slips. The older ones have 0 to 60, 0 to 100, and all this other stuff. A little bit less sophisticated. But anyway, you get the point that I'm making, though. And so the idea here is all of that loss of utility. In other words, the inability to go watt on the free, on the, from a dig on, just on some, lonesome road, just you in the car, and you're going for that number, is the inability to do that with the Hellcat, or at least you're going to have to drive the car through all of this, as opposed to using the street as literally your own personal drag strip, because it will hook up on the street with much less driver finesse. Is that worth the extra 20 grand? And that's, an answer, or question you got to answer for yourself. Some Ferrari guys asking, have you taken a look at the used car market recently? Is it just me or has everything gone up 20%? I used to see C606 for 30 grand. Now I can't find one for under 40. I've heard of that. I've heard the C6 Z06 is going up in value for some reason, and I don't know why. You know, the C6 Z06 for a lot of guys was kind of the white elephant. You know, with the cylinder head issues, and then it's a Z06. Do you really even want to mess with it? It's kind of a special thing. I don't know, man. I can't tell you. I've heard of that, but only in passing, and I haven't really had my nose or my ear to the grindstone. I haven't really had my ear to the ground on that lately, man. GS1's asking, by the way, how much more work is it involved to go ahead and forge the rotating assembly while a cam swap is happening? Well, you don't necessarily have to take the engine out of the car to do a cam swap, but you have to take the engine out of the car to do the full rotating assembly. If nothing else, if you're dropping everything out from underneath it, basically you're dropping the entire cradle from underneath it, the engine's going to have to be removed from the cradle and then put on a stand and completely disassembled. Possibly, unless they're just drop-ins, and even then, that's not necessarily the best way to go. You're going to have some machine work going into this. So it's involved. No joke. I mean, you could be looking at another $1,800, $1,900 just in machine work. Balancing in some cases. I mean, there's a lot that could potentially have to go into doing that. And it's not a proposition that I would take lightly, because it's also going to add a significant amount of time to your build. And when I say significant, I'm saying 60 days, give or take. That's how long it can take. It has taken in some cases with us with machine shops. So. Rick's asking, how much horsepower is gained on unlocking a Hellcat's ECU and getting more horsepower out of it just on an unlocked ECU and dyno tune? So most cars on a Mustang dyno will make 595 horsepower. With a tune, you might see 630. 6 1/4 is probably more appropriate, but it's in the transmission tune where you get all of your performance. As a matter of fact, I proved this with this girl over here. I went 1016, and by the way, Dr. Diff can verify this because he has peer-reviewed my tune. It's a thing that I'll do just so that if there's any question of what I've been up to, somebody else can answer that question for me. And that tune had nothing done. In fact, it still has nothing done in terms of timing, with only adding fuel, but primarily doing things to the engine side of the tune to accommodate what I was doing on the transmission side, which again wasn't very much. And the car went low 10s, almost went 9s. I mean, you know, 1600s, I get it, it's a lot, but 1600s away from going a 9. So I mean, you can't blink your eyes in 1600ths of a second. So most of your gains, most of your feel is going to be in that trans tune. And Dr. Just saying he's a very proud papa. Yeah, I am. I like it. My Joker on a 5.7 and my high roller, aka Joker 2 or 6.4, is nasty. You need to go fast. That's where it's at. It will be fast, period. If you don't believe me, run me. Absolutely. Oh, Dr. was saying, use Pop's car or the Mustang you have. Those vehicles are set up properly for what the customers want. Or street ability to hurt feelings badly. Proved in at high 12s as it sits without the 100 to 150 shot. That car will go quicker than high 12s, dude. Rick's saying, not ever interested in taking my Hellcat off of 93, just maximizing her on 93. The thing with that is, yeah, I mean, if you look at what you can do just on 93 octane alone, you can easily, and this is in really good DA, depending on the area that you live in, density altitude that you're at, or physical altitude that you're at, and density altitude you run your car at, 1040s is not out of the question in full weight, with just some minor tweaks. And look, it doesn't, with the good thing about the Hellcat is that you can get to that level, which is a respectable level, but it's not scary fast. I mean, it is, can be, okay, but the platform is incredibly stable. Brakes are incredibly good. You can bring everything back to namaste, right? You can bring everything back to cool very quickly in a Hellcat, especially at that power level. And to give you an idea, Revlon is making 666 horsepower to the rear wheels. And yeah, I've made a couple of tweaks to the tune, but nothing too major. And I got to tell you, to go and to put any more power to the ground is going to require more boost. It's going to require, really, if I'm going to do anything to the car, it's going to go from where it's at now to 920s or 950s. I mean, it just doesn't, to me, putting a smaller pulley on it and trying to run it on 93, it would be out of the question, because in my opinion, she's already at the limit for what 93 octane year-round will realistically accommodate. Now, a lot of people will argue with me, and believe me, I am arguing with me too, constantly about that statement, because I know that a 295 or a 3.0 pulley would be just fine, wouldn't be much different than where it sits now. I get that, but I got to be a bit pragmatic and say, look, you just got to chill out, get a little bit of the sauce going, and go from there. And if you really want to get after it and make a lot of power and go real fast and really be able to feel the difference, you ain't going to do it with stock pulleys. So again, if you're happy with where it's at and you just want it to be augmented, then gear, tune, the supporting mods, you'll be just fine. KS is saying, what's he talking about, that 440 twin turbo scat? And he's asking KS, Dr. Diff, hey man, I heard there's only like 5 shops in Texas that knows what they're doing from a Mopar standpoint. You think that's true? Yeah, I'll jump in the middle of that and say it might be less than that. Dane saying, on the night shift at the chemical plant, taking notes. I like it. Rick saying, maybe at some point I'll ship her down for the tune and makeover. There's enough that I want to do to ship her down to you guys. Yeah, I mean, like I say, Dr. Diff knows these things inside and out. And, like I say, it's, have a plan, stick to the plan, know what you want, and go from there, and you'll do just fine. Hilton Mode's asking, does putting a ram in tow haul mode screw with the custom tune? Not at all. Doesn't affect it in the least. There are actually provisions in the tune for both, as a matter of fact. Well, guys, it is coming up on 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I am going to check out because I, too, have got to wake up at crazy early in the morning. Edward Schaefer's in saying, yo, B. But I'm going to go ahead and check out. I hope all you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Stay safe, stay healthy out there. Keep wearing your mask. If not for yourself, and do it for others. You're going to send it, don't bend it. Keep your shiny side up. Love all you guys, man. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Adios.